Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah.
Run things rude way.
Okay, so this is the first episode of the Becoming the Alpha Muslim podcast. Actually, this should have been the very first piece of content I put out because it totally sets the tone of what Becoming the Alpha Muslim is about and gives you an idea of what to expect from the site. Just before Ramadan, I was a guest on the Dukkan show because they needed some Ramadan specific content. What would have been optimal was for them to have an Islamic scholar or a scholar in training or a trained preacher on their show. Now, I tried to connect them to a couple of guys that were a good fit logistics wise, but they were busy. So they had to settle for me. God help us all. In any case, I think the episodes turned out well. Some of the discussion during our first sit down didn't make it into the released episodes because of time constraints and because it was slightly off topic. Still, this was some good shit and very relevant to a lot of Muslims. I asked them to put these leftovers together for me, and this is what you're going to listen to today. We talk about how Twitter has helped me meet and connect with people I would never have known existed, like Mike Cernovich of Danger in Play Media and Haram-based social media strike force, like based auntie Miriam Sadiq, host of the Not Guilty No Way podcast, and resident Muzzy on Haram-based social media strike force, like Thor Holt of the Right With Courage podcast, the most non-Thor looking dude named Thor ever, like Noor Judah of the Between Arabs project, who has the immense cojones speak on taboo topics through a writing and podcast. We also talk about the responsibility of regular Joe Muslims to defer to Islamic scholars on religious issues that require expert knowledge and training, and how this responsibility does not take away from an individual Muslim's agency or his moral and ethical obligation to always seek truth and do what is pleasing to God. We also talk about the nature of God, our perceptions of Him, and how to understand Scripture when God describes Himself to us. Finally, we talk about the premise behind becoming the Alpha Muslim, why I chose the name, and what I hope to achieve with the project. Hashtag feminism is cancer. Let's get started.
Selector, run the track.
She's an Afghani from Kandahar. Her parents moved to America. She was raised there. She became a lawyer.
Criminal law.
She was a prosecutor. Then she went to work for. She was like, "Yo, this system is broken. I'm going to work for the criminal defense, so to defend the guys who are being charged with crimes."
Okay.
Because apparently the system is like broken and it's.
This is America.
Yeah, in America, and then now she owns her own criminal defense firm, and she does criminal law and she does immigration stuff.
So okay, tell the story of how she got you on the podcast.
I met her on Twitter because I follow this guy called Mike Cernovich, yeah?
Okay.
He has a website called Danger and Play where he writes about masculinity and mindset and stuff.
Okay.
And then she knows him, like she's a friend of his.
Okay.
Or he's a friend of hers.
Okay.
And she had him on her podcast. Mm-hmm. So I listened to the podcast and she sounded very intelligent. Then I followed her on Twitter and we interacted on Twitter. And then once I made my profile public because I had it was under a handle, yeah.
Yeah.
Then she was like, why don't you come on the show and.
This is not based off the LinkedIn Pulse article.
It's based off of me interacting with her.
But you said something about the LinkedIn Pulse article as well.
Which
and
it was really cool.
yeah, I got a lot of feedback on that. It's spread all over the place. It got reddited as well.
Why specifically? I mean, why?
Because it's like if something is really high quality, people sort of appreciate it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you put like a lot of time into that.
Yeah, man, it took me like almost 20 hours of work.
Fair enough.
I didn't do it right, actually. I should have done it in batches. So what I was doing was I was writing, researching, and editing all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So it took really long. What you're supposed to do is research first, then write it, get it all down, and then edit it afterwards.
How do you research about Donald Trump?
There's a lot of articles about him, publicly on blogs, on other people's on websites. A lot of people have been talking about Donald Trump and persuasion.
The psychology.
Yeah. So there's a guy, Dilbert, the comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who writes that comic strip, he's a trained hypnotist and he studied persuasion for a long time. And a lot of his persuasion teachers and influencers are the same as Donald Trump. They come from the same area in New York actually.
Okay.
And they're from a similar background. So for the past year, he's been doing analysis on Donald Trump and talking about his persuasion and stuff.
Wow.
And this guy Mike Cernovich also has been doing the same sort of analysis, because he's also he's a lawyer, like he's a licensed attorney, but he doesn't practice law.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to study persuasion and all of these things as part of his law training. And he's like a lot of the books I've read, and my teachers are similar to they have an influence. Like there's a connection. Like Tony Robbins is connected to all of these people through in persuasion.
They're one crew kind of thing.
Yeah, persuasion, NLP.
NLP, yeah.
Yeah, those kinds of things.
That's crazy.
So you researched it and published it, and it got like a lot of views and a lot of people
You
sharing.
added obviously your own analysis to it. I mean, there was.
No, it's more of a curated article. So I got a lot of different sources. Yeah, and I compiled all of the as many of the different persuasion methods as I could, and then I expanded it, and I put citations in, and then I got examples from all over the place. So, tweets of celebrities supporting Donald Trump, and articles, videos.
Yeah.
I added a lot. It was very interactive. So there's embedded tweets. There's quotes. There's videos and all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's very appealing. It's appealing
like a packaged
to read.
product type of thing.
And I can improve it more. For example, it's about persuasion and copywriting. So for every sort of persuasion method, I can talk about Trump, the way Trump uses it, and I can talk about it in a marketing sense.
Okay.
So I'll give an example I'll give a marketing example. Look at how it's applied in this marketing example, either from online or print or whatever it is, advertising. And that way you can add more value to the art.
Of course.
And I can basically read the article into a mic and make an audio version and embed the podcast version
that's
on top.
a cool idea.
I can add a SlideShare presentation of it, summarized SlideShare. Yeah. And then you just keep adding modules to the article that make it like this ultimate epic piece of content.
His view is that, like I was saying, right, less articles but market the hell out of it. Write one good article, and as long as it's solid, you market it, it's gonna get its traction.
So you knew that it was going to be something.
Yeah, I felt like it was first of all, it's long, so people share and like longer things.
Is it?
Yeah, because a lot of the content that's available online is they call
surface
it
level.
Listicles,
Yeah.
So it's all 50 things about this, 10 things about that.
But a real deep analysis type of thing.
Okay.
It's not
to grab
deep,
one thing and go down.
Because it's like, if I'm going to share it, it's because this thing has enough value that my friend can really get some insight and improve his understanding of it, as opposed to a listicle where I'll read and throw it away.
Exactly.
It's just whatever.
And I've looked at some of the articles that, what I'm trying to do with the article, or with any article that you write for a blog, is that you want to rank on Google's page 1 for those keywords that you're targeting. So I want to rank on Google's page 1 for Donald Trump and persuasion and Donald Trump and copywriting. I checked out some of the articles that are on page 1 about Donald Trump's copywriting, and the only reason they're ranked higher than mine is because the website, it has more credibility. So Inc.com, which is like a high traffic, high credibility website. The actual content is not as good as mine.
So why don't you pitch the article to these high rank websites?
That'll be like, that's called content syndication. You don't want to have duplicate content all over the place.
Is it?
So what's going to happen is, if I put the same article on Inc.com or Forbes or whatever it is, that website is going to get all of the traffic, and my website is going to drop in rankings because that website has higher authority.
Fair enough.
And sometimes you can get hit by a duplicate content penalty. Google will drop you further in the rankings because it's counted as duplicate content.
Okay. It's analytics based on that. That's crazy, man. But really well done on the article.
Yeah. All of these things in life, especially, they have spiritual effects. Everything that we do, and as Muslims, like, we want to do stuff that improves our spiritual state rather than debases the spiritual state. But because at the end of the day, that spiritual state is like the be all and end all of your existence, and will determine your fate in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? You feel me?
So do you suggest? I mean, I shouldn't even ask this question because I know it's true. Decrease music, obviously, and all that type of stuff during the holy month of Ramadan. Yes. Okay. Let's move on. I already knew that. I'm just acting like I don't know. But for
I mean, it's a touchy subject, because music is like so ingrained in culture and society. But a lot of people, they cut back on if they do listen to music, they cut back on music.
I'll tell you, you know what it is, man. The thing is, when you're trying to be in a mental focus, you don't want no song popping in the middle of all that. You know how a song just pops up in the day and it stays with you?
Yeah.
So when you remove music for a while, the chances of that happening decrease. Am I right or wrong?
I feel like music has a similar or it's it's as strong as spirituality itself. So it does affect your psyche in that way.
Yeah, it does.
And this is why I feel like it might, make you like decrease.
It competes for your
worship
brain's
sense.
attention, man.
It's heart, man. It's more than even the brain, man. It's the heart and the...
Because it's the end of the day, it's vibration, and we're all vibration. It's just it's just waves. You know what I mean? And we're all in a wave. You know what I mean? So it's part of the essence of life. You know what I mean? So when that essence is shaped in a certain way, it competes with where you're trying to be as your own particular wave. You know what I mean? So like it gets in you. You know what I mean?
The Islamic sages or saints or scholars or whatever, they say that like in the human heart doesn't have room for music and Quran together. It's like either one or the other. And you notice that people who are into music a lot, they have a very adverse reaction to when the Quran gets played. Like if they're listening to music and you switch to a Quran channel, they'll either turn it down or turn it off or
But
not
you know
necessarily
what? I'll tell you,
correct.
if that's actually true, it's because the when you're listening to a particular style of music, you're familiar with a certain range of tones. The Quran sort of what's the word when you recite Quran? There's a form. What's that called?
Tilawa.
Yeah. Okay. So those notes are unfamiliar to you, and when you're listening to something unfamiliar to you, always your first reaction is like, I'm not sure I like it. You know what I'm trying to say? So I understand what you're saying, but it's not like an anti-spiritual thing. It's just that it's unfamiliarity. You know, any new piece of music that sounds different to you, you're gonna be like, that's a bit weird. It takes you time to get used to it. You know what I mean? So it has to grow on you. So I guess you gotta maintain. I know people who like listen to Quran in the mornings and then they also listen to music and they kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's like a personal ethical decision. Like you have to do what's best for you, like spiritually. Personally, I don't actually listen to music anymore. Sometimes I'll like get the bug and like I'll remember something or I'll hear of a particular song. Like I was watching this short little documentary piece on Vox about the way that Vox thing about the rebel, and
that's been doing the rounds.
Yeah, and then there was a bit about Kendrick Lamar's Rigor Mortis, and I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." I was like,
should I shut this down?
What? And then I googled it and I listened to Rigor Mortis because just from like an intellectual perspective, like just as somebody who likes the science behind things, you know, like listening to that level of mastery is almost like it's fascinating. You get what I'm saying? I don't listen to music, but it's fascinating to me. Reggae music is fascinating to me, you know.
He was a big reggae head before he became full on.
Okay.
And you know, roots reggae is probably like the most Islamic.
Come on.
Because it's spiritual music. I've been saying.
Because they're
they talk about good things.
They're
man.
rapping about the Bible, you know. Like, of course, the religion is like we don't agree with the religion Rastafari because they think Ali Selassie is like God or something like that. We don't agree with the religion, but they're quoting the Bible, you know. They're talking about
and they reflect on life in a very
repatriation. And
That's crazy.
yeah.
And then like
Bring up the Rastaman, burn down Babylon.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You get me? So
Yeah.
so that kind of stuff it appealed to me because it's like conscious music is appealing to people rather than mindless music.
Yeah.
And even those scholars that say that music is allowed, because that's an opinion in Islam that a minority, even though it's a minority opinion, it's an opinion in Islam. The majority say that musical instruments are not allowed. And that you can only.
Man, but the thing is I've like since I've gotten really deep into Islam, I've been continuously researching about this, and I haven't really reached any verdict because I mean I think the top scholars where I listen a lot to Hamza Yusuf, and I think he's a person that he should lead our ummah today. In terms,
you know, Hamza Yusuf doesn't listen to music, yeah?
He doesn't, but he says, or like, he and others, a lot of different scholars say that there isn't really, there wasn't, it's not prohibited or it's not permissible we're
What
not.
the issue is the state of intoxication.
Yeah, so it's it's an opinion in Islam that it's allowed. I agree with that, and for me to say that it's not that opinion doesn't exist or it's not valid is wrong. So I can't force the majority opinion on anyone. But those scholars that do allow it, they put conditions on it. Yeah, and those conditions, like if you actually apply those conditions.
You
Like
end
you're
up with
only
the
gonna,
poetry part.
yeah, you're not gonna be listening to anything that's hype. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no, like you can't listen to anything that's hype. Like,
But what if it's hype conscious music?
like even hype, like the beat is hype, right? Or the vibe is hype, or the rhythm is hype, or the melody is hype. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And if the lyrical content is not appropriate, you're not allowed to listen to it. If you listen to it too much and it takes you away from remembrance of
from
God,
your
also,
prayers
yeah,
or from-
exactly.
yeah, exactly.
So there are a lot of stipulations that people actually don't care about whether it's allowed or not. They just want to listen to music, and because it's an emotional thing, they'll look for whatever
To
sort of.
rationalize it.
Yeah, exactly. So they made an emotional decision that I want to listen to music, and they back project a rationalization to say, okay, I have a justification now. But I mean, ultimately, as human beings, like even though these opinions exist, each Muslim human being has an
Knows himself.
ethical responsibility to do what he feels is most God conscious and God fearing.
Fair enough.
So like
That's
even
your
though-
personal decision. That's what you're going to be weighed
exactly.
on.
So a lot of Muslims are like, why do we have to listen to these scholars? These mullahs, they don't know what's going on. But like, like a doctor, like you'll get a bunch of different opinions and prognosis and solutions from doctors. Ultimately, you're the one who has to make the decision about which plan of treatment to take. Yeah, the doctor can't force you to a plan. And if a doctor suggests a treatment or a surgery or whatever, he can only make that suggestion.
With
You
your
are the one who
conscious
has to give the consent to
decision,
actually do it. Yeah, you can actually refuse the surgery or
It
something
comes
like
back
that.
to that thing about it's an obligation unto yourself, not to
Yeah.
God, because God doesn't need anything from you.
Yeah.
There's a mistake in assuming that God doesn't love you if you don't do X, Y, Z. I don't believe that's true because you're the creation. You know what I mean? You're made out of love, right? Okay, correct me if I'm wrong at any point, right?
I don't know about
Made out of love.
It's a-
Okay,
Kinda
maybe
love,
it's a bit woo woo.
Zen, yeah.
Maybe it's a bit woo woo, but like
Allah
because
is
Rahma is there's massive Rahma, right?
Yeah, mercy
course,
is one of his
yeah, it's
attributes.
beyond us.
But like we have to be careful, like because saying like God is love is like a Christian thing and it has baggage with it. You get what I'm
Does
saying?
it?
Yeah, God, like the idea that God is love and that means like God is like only love and there's nothing else about him.
No,
So-
God is the full range of emotion.
Yeah, so God is al
It's
wadud.
beyond the emotion as
Beyond
well.
the emotion.
Yeah, one of his attributes and names is al wadud, which is like the all-encompassingly loving or the infinitely
Yeah,
loving.
Yeah, so that is a nice name.
Yeah, but he's also
Al-Qahhar.
al-Jabbar, you know.
Yeah,
He's
the
also
more, yeah.
he's also the compeller. He's also the Almighty. He's
The
also
humbler and all the type.
yeah. He's also the one who's severe in punishment. Shadidul
Yeah.
Iqab. You know, he has all of these virtues and attributes that make him this perfect being. If you focus on one particular attribute to the exclusion of others, you limit his infinitude and his perfection. You get what I'm saying? Because
That's a quote right there.
But can
Copyright.
we then say that the 99 names encompass the grand scope of the human experience?
he's more than 99 names. His names and attributes are infinite because he's an infinite being. He's just revealed 99 that we know of that have been
For your
codified.
limited
For your
mind.
You are limited.
And the idea of those names and attributes is so that we can have some idea or understanding of who he is. Ultimately, he's beyond our comprehension. Whatever your mind perceives of God is wrong.
Yeah.
Because
it's not it.
But the way language works is that he revealed revelation in a human language so that we can understand. One of the scholars, he gave an example. Like he's from Uttar Pradesh in India, which is landlocked. There's no ocean. So if I go to Uttar Pradesh to a village and try to explain ocean to them, I don't have the words, and they don't have the words in their cultural dialect to explain ocean. The best thing that they have or biggest thing that they have is pond. which is a small body of water. So I can say an ocean is a very large pond.
It's an infinite.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't fully.
But it doesn't fully explain
It's
the
not
ocean.
what it
gravity
is.
of what a
You will
ocean
never
is.
understand.
Yeah.
If your only concept of ocean is large pond, it's not the reality of an ocean.
Pretty much.
You get what I'm saying? So language, our human language is limited in that way when describing the infinite, that is God.
Do you think the Fusha is less limited?
Fusha is a human language, so it has the same limitations that it cannot express the reality of the divine.
But maybe it's the furthest for the human because it was revealed in that.
How can we know that? We have to gauge it against all other languages in the world. It's
if
hard
we
to
no,
say.
if we assume that speaking as Muslims, yeah, if we believe that we believe that the Quran is divine, yeah, and we believe that God exists, so God chose in His infinite knowledge and omnipotence to reveal the Quran in Arabic, so
That's what
God,
it is.
yeah, so that means Arabic was the best language to reveal Quran and to convey the last and final message of God to mankind until the day of judgment. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they call it a fortiori proof.
What
Yeah.
the hell is that?
Naam.
It's like so
Is Latin? What is this?
if you it's like something else is proved by a higher proof. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you already internalize the fact that God Almighty exists and God Almighty is Almighty and that He's all His knowledge is infinite and perfect, then His choice of revealing
Is
the
within those-
Quran in Arabic is within that purview of His ability.
But isn't that tricky grounds because then that opens the door to people going and say, Allah said this is it, kalas. There's no room for reflection.
No,
No,
because
there is room for reflection, but you have to be aware that
even
like that's-
Arabic, yeah. So Arabic,
Why do you think he's taking Arabic?
No, I know, but what I'm
Fusha-
saying- I'm just trying to like highlight that what you're saying is it makes sense. I'm just saying that when me as a person, if you're saying that to me, I have to be aware. Okay, that's correct, but at the same time, I'm allowed to be reflective because in knowing why is the understanding, not knowing just why.
yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
so as Muslims, we're not obligated to follow or believe something that we're not convinced of that it is true. So the Quran says, "Qul hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin." Bring your proof if you're truthful. Yeah. So if I come to say to you, this is what Islam says about something, and I don't actually convince you, you don't have to follow me unless I have sufficient, for example, credibility that you're willing to follow me without me convincing you
Yeah.
or persuading you. Some people have that. So, for example, we talked about Hamza Yusuf. Yeah.
Yeah.
If Hamza Yusuf says something, most likely you're gonna agree if he talks about something in Islam, you're gonna agree with him in general, because
He
you've
comes-
already established credibility.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's
he
trust.
says the supporting documents
He goes
and
into
facts
the etymology,
and exactly
luxuria,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Which you can't really be like, okay, fine.
he goes
So-
in the Latin, German.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't give you an argument to support it or a proof to support it, you might just follow him because he's established that trust with you, and that's called, that's expert testimony or expert witness.
But that's allowed in Islam, right? Because
Yeah.
that's why that we have leaders in
Yeah,
Islam
yeah.
to go by with, right?
Yeah. So okay. So for example, let's take the example of a mechanic. Yeah. You go take your car to a mechanic. You don't know much about cars. You take your car to a mechanic. Your mechanic is gonna say this and this is wrong with your car. Now you have the choice to get a second opinion from another mechanic or a
Sure.
third mechanic, but ultimately you're gonna end up trusting
The guy.
one of these mechanics
Yeah.
as to what's wrong with your car,
True.
because you don't have the know-how to determine what's
They're
wrong
the
with your car.
experts, yeah.
Same thing with any expert level knowledge, doctor, environmentalist, lawyer. Otherwise, what's the point? You're gonna treat yourself. You're gonna do surgery on yourself. You're gonna fix your car yourself, and you don't know how. So that's the situation. Your responsibility as a Muslim is actually to seek out the best of these experts.
And most convenient is it and the easiest?
Yeah, the one who's available to you. What's closer to you.
But then, in this context of spirituality, if you're a dude, for me to take your word, I'd have to kind of trust that you're further along the spiritual path than I am, right?
Yeah.
Now, when the eyes look at somebody, it's one thing, but knowing what's inside the person is another thing. This is a completely subjective thing. So how do you gauge who's further along the spiritual path? You might have a more spiritual understanding than the guy who's got like Quran all over his office desk and all this type of thing. I've had guys like that in my office, Quran all over the offices, but in his mind he's crazy.
That's true, and that's correct, because I mean, ultimately we don't know what's in the heart of the person, but like, let's take another analogy with the doctor. So if a doctor can forge his credentials, yeah, and the way to determine whether a doctor is actually a good doctor is what do other doctors say about him, what do his patients say about him. Yeah. A scholar is going to be known for his knowledge and his piety. So the way you identify the right scholar or the best scholar to go to is other scholars will say this guy is a really good scholar. You can listen to him, and other people will say, mashallah, I've seen this scholar. He's very religious and his manners are really good and he's like a really good Muslim. But what's inside the heart, nobody can ever know. Yeah.
But you try to research as much as you can.
But hypocrisy will always manifest.
Yeah.
You can't fake something for eternity. The hypocrisy will always manifest. If, for example, this scholar has something wrong with him internally, it's going to manifest externally. Like, you can't hide that. It's like
blind trust is not the way. You just got to be observant, right?
No, it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not blind trust. You have a responsibility.
Due diligence in order to know, even if it's asking like the closest people to you, and asking about that person, finding out about their history or whatever.
But what about completely contrary in appearance? So I know somebody who's like they follow a more Quranist view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's read all the opinions on like why it's right, why it's wrong, but in his heart he feels that this is the way. What's in store for somebody like that? They should. Are they just going to always be questioned that they're wrong, or if they genuinely feel that this is the way, then should they just follow and continue on with it?
I don't know, actually. Ultimately, everybody is going to be responsible for their own self. I actually believe Quranist views is completely antithetical to Islam, and it doesn't make sense, personally. But if somebody has some sort of personal inclination and he's absolutely 100% convinced that this is the only way to live his life, okay. On the day of judgment, it'll get sorted out. It's not up to me. I can't force that person to follow my understanding of Islam. Nobody can, actually. Even at the state level, if you prohibit these kinds of opinions from being propagated, people will just go underground and follow it in secret. You get what I'm saying?
Ideas flow like
so. I mean, there's a day of judgment at the end of the day. Everybody is going to be judged by the perfect, all perfect judge, whose knowledge is perfect and his judgment is perfect. So, these sorts of things, like as regular Joe Muslims, we don't really want to get involved in. Like, we just want to follow the scholar that we know and trust. Practice our religion to the best of our ability and mind our own business and not get involved in these disputes and things like that.
Just before we close, what are you up to now? Like, if people want to like get involved with stuff that you're doing, what are you up to?
Actually, I'm starting like a side project. It's like a website for Muslim men and masculinity, called becomingthealphamuslim.com.
Hear that shit?
Okay.
And
crazy, right?
Yeah.
But what do you mean by?
I know. What do you mean?
Okay, that's good. So it's branding, yeah. It's an aspirational brand, so positioning, whatever. So becoming is like an action verb, yeah. So it signifies action and self-improvement, and Alpha Muslim is like a play on words. It's like, okay, there's only one Muslim man who has his masculinity fully realized in its perfect form, and that's Prophet Muhammad. Yeah. So we are not actually, that's why it's becoming the Alpha Muslim and not the Alpha Muslim, because it's a process of personal and self-improvement. You might actually never get there, but you're trying to reach there through emulating the behavior and practices of the Prophet. What I noticed was that the reason I'm starting this website is because there's a lot of weird
metrosexual
weird discourse happening with. Because progressive culture is the culture that is being propagated all over the world. Western culture is the culture that is upstream from everything else, and the one who dominates culture has control of the way the ideas and the thinking process of everybody around the world. Western culture is propagated around the world, and that's the sort of dominant mainstream sort of culture. So a lot of these weird concepts that are not compatible with Islam are seeping into the Muslim consciousness, and you find a lot of these. One of the big things right now is feminism, yeah, and the idea that somehow masculinity and maleness is dangerous, and there's nobody more masculine right now than a Muslim man, because we retain that fundamental masculinity through the prescriptions that are passed down through Islam, because Islam is very strict when it comes to gender roles and responsibilities. They're actually explicitly prescribed that men and women are supposed to do and be this way, and these are their rights and responsibilities. What I found was that we're getting a lot of discourse online, on YouTube, on the internet, on blogs and things like that, where that kind of masculinity is under attack. And right now, a lot of Muslim men, and I speak from personal experience, our dad is like a sailor, so he was always away sailing. We didn't have that male energy around to teach us how to be men. That's why I was a late bloomer. I sort of matured very late in life.
Me too.
We actually had to find that stuff out on our own. Yeah.
In the streets.
Yeah, exactly. Street knowledge.
Through music, I found a lot of
I know.
Yeah. And what I see in the West as a response to feminism and progressive ideas are men's websites. Yeah, they call it the red pill or neo-masculinity. And that's where all of this alpha beta stuff comes from.
Okay.
So it's a play on words of that, because I'm sort of positioning myself for that particular market of Muslim men. Now, the stuff that I read on those websites, I realize that Islam sort of nips that in the bud. You get what I'm saying? All of the problems that they have in their society, the extremes of feminism that cause the reaction that is red pill and neo-masculinity, Islam nips that in the bud through prescribing that men are supposed to be this way and women are supposed to be that way. And ultimately, because it's divine, it's for the good of mankind, yeah?
Humankind.
Exactly. Man is an ungendered word, actually. That's why salesman refers to men and women together.
Yeah, is it? Come on.
Yeah, man refers, if you say man and if it's unqualified, man refers to all of mankind.
But the word is in the way people perceive it. Man is man, woman is woman. Salesperson is neutral. Why it's...
No, it's not, because if I say the word man, yeah, unqualified, yeah, if I don't qualify it with any other phrases, if I say the word man, I'm referring to all of mankind in a sentence. In a sentence, not as a word individually.
I don't know. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah. It was I was reading about it in a book, actually. The author even explained it that way. In any case, the idea is that I want to help these Muslim men, and because Muslims we're humans too, and we're affected by the society around us too. And Muslims being in the intellectual position that we are not the creators and propagators of ideology and ideas and intellectual thought at the moment. We're the consumers of ideas and ideology and intellectual thought. So Muslims in the West and around the world now are consuming these ideas, and they're consuming them uncritically. So a lot of Muslim men now are being sort of emasculated and becoming effeminate because of these ideas and ideology, where basically your masculinity is somehow a threat and violent or something like that. They call it toxic masculinity. So I'm trying to head that off at the pass. So the idea behind the website is to talk about just general self-improvement for men, and it's basically I'm writing the website for other people like me who grew up and came to Islam through like a long journey of, conscious choice basically, and I had to learn a lot of things about Islam.
By yourself.
Yeah, by myself. I didn't have teachers or whatever, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. So there's no reason why other people who are in the same position have to make the same mistakes that I made. For example, I'll give you an example: the beard thing, and the shortening my pants thing. I got into a lot of. I had a lot of bad stuff happen with my parents because I was unflexible on that. Come to find out, I asked one of my teachers about it, and he was like, "No, you don't have to be that extreme." You get what I'm saying? Like you can still, you can keep the beard like shorter than it is that I have right now, because now I have a long beard.
Yeah.
You can keep it as a full beard and still not have it be like, it'll still be a valid beard Islamically, and you don't have to keep your trousers that short, because first of all, it's not an obligation. You get what I'm saying? It's just a recommendation. You can shorten it to what they call boot cut.
Okay.
Yeah, so it still looks presentable, and it still fulfills the condition of being of not dragging your trouser, and it still looks,
And nowadays they're rolling up the thing, no?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's doing the sunnah, but it's like
They're
a
going
hipster
back.
fashion.
Yeah.
That's why I keep on saying going
hipsters
front
are
is going
Muslims,
back, man.
hipsters are rocking sunnah.
There's speaking of this masculinity, like, there's a current trend, which is or fad, is
The beard.
The beard. The guys are having these like lumberjack sort of
I have a theory on that.
beard,
Hipster beard.
which I feel did I tell you about it? Which is the whole sort of the women kind of, first of all, saying that masculinity is a threat. So men started going towards more feminine side, like ideologies, and then women are not finding any men.
Yes.
So the men
Yes.
are coming back to it with these whole lumberjack like kind of.
But it's so
looks.
funny, man. It's like the men are reacting to what the women want. It's silly, man. Like the
It's
men should
evolution,
get-
but
you
it's
get
not
what I'm saying?
the
evolution
men
though.
should just
Like,
do
you
the
know what
men,
I'm saying?
You know what?
And
You know
then,
what
like,
it is?
geez.
The reason that feminism has gotten as far as it has is because men want to please women,
Pretty much.
and men want to get.
And it's a guilt trip. Like that's
And
what
men
they
want
want.
Because your mother also raises you, and your mother tells you, okay, be this way, be more like your dad. So you're always kind of, especially when the post-industrial dad is not at home, you know what I mean? So the mother is the one telling you this, that, and then you start following what she says, and you start relying on her guidance for what you should be doing. There's where
Which
the whole
is not
thing.
wrong though.
It's not wrong, but it's not complete.
It's good to understand, to have the emotional
But it's
intelligence
not
of
complete.
women and be masculine and a man at the same time.
But
That's
it's
a
not
good,
complete. It's
both,
not a complete view of who we are. You see?
Obviously,
You know
but
what I mean?
there's a lot of broken homes now, and
Well, yeah.
a lot of people grow up without fathers. I grew up like without a
Yeah,
father
yeah,
either.
yeah.
So,
See, you got to be a man before you can be a gentleman. You know what I'm saying?
fair enough. I mean, yeah.
So those virtuous acts of mercy and forgiveness and magnanimity, they mean nothing without the strength of the male.
True.
Like if I'm merciful because I'm a weakling and I have no ability to enforce my will on anybody, that's not actually a virtue.
Well, that's like
just-
embodying the 99 names,
yeah,
right?
that's just weakness, isn't it? So the mercy is a virtue because of the strength that's behind it.
Exactly.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's mercy was such a big virtue because he had the power to lay waste to his enemies, and he didn't. It was a conscious choice to be merciful. Now you can't have a conscious choice to be merciful if you're a weakling and you have no capacity to be strong. You get what I'm saying? So you gotta learn how to be a man before you can be a gentleman. And the other reason is like, the reason that feminism has gone so far is because guys want to get laid. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they do like, okay, you guys want equality, no problem.
because they're still a slave
Yeah.
to the lizard.
Exactly.
Right? So when you beat the lizard, when you master the lizard, nobody's in control of you. You're not a
Yeah.
slave anymore. You see what I'm trying to say?
And then what happened was, now the guys bought into this, they signed up for this equality / gender equality / okay, feminism, whatever. but they still didn't get the payoff.
They still didn't get laid.
It's like, wait, so like, wait a minute, you guys want to be equal,
but you want
plus there's no sex? Like, no, it's like, no, we didn't sign up for this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now the guys are reacting to like, wait, we signed up for this because we thought that you guys would like us and you know,
But now you're
give
telling
it
us
up.
shut up.
But now. That's not
they
working.
want to step over.
They
want to masculine.
It's just like, get out of my way so I can go.
Habitual line steppers.
Pretty much.
So now what happens is there's a reaction from the men. That's where pickup artistry came from. Red pill, neo masculinity. Guys were like, okay, if you guys are gonna be like this, then we're gonna fight
do
back.
our own thing. I mean,
what happens when you back men into a corner? Men are the stronger sex. When they fight, they're gonna dominate and. Competition and winning is part of the male psyche. That's the way a man signifies his worth, and that's how he gets success and status and in society by competing and winning. The man's worth is only in his ability to compete and win and defeat his opponents, whereas the woman's worth is just by existing. She's innately has value. The man's value is only
it's assessed in those ways.
Is assessed.
But I don't know why. I feel like women, if they want to put a spell on you, like Nina Simone said,
they're dangerous.
She put a spell on you.
Women did it.
But no, they can only do that if you're a slave to the lizard, bro. You gotta master. That's why he's saying, like, you gotta master yourself first. Then you're no longer a slave. You're only slave to one thing.
Yeah. That's why in Islam, like, men are supposed to lower their gaze. Yeah, we're not supposed to look at the gyaldem.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And the power that gives you is next level. Like
when you don't look at it, don't give her attention.
Yeah, like, see, they're like, what is wrong with this guy?
What is wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
That happens. You know this guy. You know this guy Norman Ali Khan.
Yeah,
he tells a story that he was in an elevator one time, and this American woman walks in. He was in an elevator. He lowered his gaze. And she walked up and she started talking like, "What are you?" It's like, what do you mean? What am I?
Lizard.
It's like you didn't even look at me even once. Like, what are you? It's like, why? I don't have to look at you. I'm married. You know? Yeah. It's like, no. Like, but what are you? It's like, and then he's like, I'm from a religion that respects women. It's like, what religion? It's like Islam. And then she's like. Because she had it's something that they never experienced, you know what I'm saying? So that act of lowering the gaze is very empowering for the man because he now is the master of his environment. He controls his environment around him, and that's where there's
so many pretty faces, ways to attract attention. You gotta block it. You gotta know because
I think we should have a completely different episode for this. I'm really interested.
Let's do it, man. I'm down.
Look, what we do. Let him put him up. Now we got the thing up.
What's the?
It's coming though.
What is
soon. Becoming the Alpha Muslim.
I'm writing an article.
That's a long one.
I'm writing an article called Islamic Feminist Oxymoron Level Over 9,000. Which is like a Dragon Ball Z reference.
Okay.
Yeah. So where I go.
Down. What was it?
Okay. So basically, it's an article taking apart the arguments of Muslim feminists because Muslim feminists are like feminism is Islamic, which is a bunch of crap. So I'm taking that article, taking them apart in that article, and in that article when it's up, there's going to be a link there to becomingthealphamuslim.com.
Okay.
You can go if
when
you want.
When is the debut?
So the article should be up in the next few days, and the website Becoming the Alpha Muslim will be up probably in the next few weeks. But there'll be a landing page that you can go to.
On LinkedIn, is it?
No, on it'll be. I have the domain, so it's becomingthealphamuslim.com, and there'll be a landing page there that you can sign up for the pre-launch if you want to get informed when it launches.
I like that, man. I really am
cool,
interested in that because I've never, even though I was raised by women, like all the household is all women, but I've never believed in equality. I believed in fairness.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I think the way is good. Because at the end of the day, we're not the same.
Yeah.
The roles are not the same. But yes, there has to be respect, mutual respect on both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And Islam prescribes it explicitly so that people know what's up and know how to act. Yeah. So that's
That's
why.
cool. Looking
yeah.
forward to that, man. Definitely.
Cool.
So, yeah. If you
All
guys
right.
want me to come back to talk about that more,
Yeah, we'll
Definitely.
do it. We'll do it once the thing's launched.
So there you have it. That's the first episode of the BTAM podcast. Now, since BTAM was all about taking action, and if you aren't about taking action, rate that, and BTAM is not for you. Got it? Here's your action item for the day. Please leave us a rating and review on iTunes. It'll take you less than 2 minutes. Now, I'm going to go one step further and ask that all of you leave a rating on the shows I mentioned in the intro. These people spend a lot of time, money, and energy producing free content that has the potential to change your life. They certainly did change mine. Leaving ratings and reviews are how you quote-unquote pay for and support their work. You feel me? It also helps other people find and benefit from these shows. By the way, I'm not selling you bullshit. These people are doing amazing work and you will benefit from reading and listening to them. I'm going to put all the necessary links and instructions in the show notes. Until next time, God bless you all.
Soldier me love and me no respect coward. I dey on a mission man hustling hard.